Welcome back to the Dom and K Show here on RadioOnFire.com. I am in here, the Radio on Fire broadcast studios here in Baltimore. Of course, this has been a jam-packed news day. We've been having a lot of those lately. Of course, Radio on Fire delivers independent news stories and original programming geared to a new urban America. When you subscribe to Radio on Fire Premium, you help support a rising voice in urban America. It's because of you that we provide the web's fastest growing urban commentary at a time when honest, fact-based reporting is critical. Your support is essential in protecting our editorial independence. And RadioOnFire.com/join is where you can go to continue to help power this machine. So a lot of topics, of course, on the desk that I need to get to. And I want to start with this story. We initially reported this back in December of last year. Valeria Smith, she is heading to trial in the stabbing death of her stepmother. If you remember that story. So here in Baltimore, I think a lot of people read through this because it was kind of outrageous what this father and daughter were proclaiming. If you remember, there was a father and a daughter who tried to say that the father's wife, the stepmother, was killed by a panhandler. Somebody that's at a light, street corner. Usually they're at a light, though, asking for money. And we don't hear that happening too often here in Baltimore, surprisingly. So when this story hit back in December, a lot of people, including myself, were kind of surprised. Because it's like, they were supposedly coming from some party, and then all of a sudden, the lady turns up allegedly stabbed. That's what the family, that's what the father, the husband, and the stepdaughter were trying to say. So back in December, they said that. Anyway, the trial is set to begin on Tuesday morning. So one of the two people charged, Valeria Smith, in the stabbing death of her stepmother, Jacqueline Smith. That trial is set for 9:30 Tuesday morning. She is charged with an accessory after the fact of the crime. The father charged with murder, his whole thing is coming up soon. Now, check this out. According to charging documents, Keith Smith, the husband, called 911 to report the stabbing of his wife. He took her to Johns Hopkins, where she later died. Now, father and daughter, who were in the car with stepmother, both gave inconsistent statements. Their stories just did not add up, of course, causing police to be, perplexed, suspicious. Police unable to find an actual crime scene. They could not identify where this took place. They didn't have any evidence, any witnesses. Surveillance footage did not support what the two were saying, and they both were saying different things. Not only are they cold-blooded killers, killing this lady, Jacqueline Smith, but they were just stupid, couldn't even get their stories right. So the area where Keith and Valeria Smith claimed Jacqueline Smith was stabbed was not well populated. Residents said that they didn't even typically see panhandlers in that area. Make matters worse, documents also stated that Keith Smith approached his brother prior to this, asking him to help kill Jacqueline Smith. But for whatever reason, brother did not come forward at that time. Later in police interviews, the brother stated that Smith told him that Jacqueline was going to divorce him. And I wish she had divorced him sooner, got rid of his. When you hear the story, it's just crazy. So after being told by his brother about the interviews and a grand jury subpoena, Keith Smith then attempted to book a one-way ticket to Cuba and Canada. But of course, I said he's dumb. He didn't have a passport. So, what did you think you were going to do? So he wanted to then go to the Virgin Islands. They told him to call another number. He even was trying to go to Jamaica and Mexico. And they had his computers and tried to actually search how to go through Mexico, but not going to the port of entry. So he tried to do the reverse of migrants coming here. He tried to do the reverse of that to get into Mexico. Anyway, they were arrested back in March, 20 minutes from the U.S.-Mexican border in Texas. Now, initially, she was charged with murder. Charges later dropped. So she's probably going to end up cooperating, I think. But, they have all the evidence, really. So, they don't really need her testimony. We know what happened for the most part. Sad story. I hope that those two get what is coming to them. And what's coming to them is a lot of time in jail. Killing that woman, lying about it. As I said, sad story there. So as we continue, Baltimore has a very horrible history as it relates to lead. So the city has been awarded $9.7 million from HUD to eliminate lead-based paint. So these federal housing officials gave Baltimore this $9.7 million. And I don't know how I feel about that. Okay. So the purpose of this money is to address the hazard of lead-based paint, right? Lead poisoning is one of the most preventable environmental diseases that we have. Tragically, still too many of our children have been affected and face a lifetime of possible health problems. Right? Lead is highly toxic, and it is particularly dangerous to young kids. It can damage brain and other vital organs. It also causes behavioral problems, learning disabilities, seizures, and death. Symptoms may include headaches, nausea, weariness, irritability. Children may show no, symptoms at all. Baltimore, of course, nearly 3 times the national rate of lead poisoning. And why? There's several reasons why. But first, let's talk about this. So lead paint can be absorbed through the skin. Even a small amount of dust from frequently used doors and windows is a risk without professional abatement. Okay? So exposure to large lethal doses is mostly non-existent in this country today. But just ingesting a small, tiny amount can have lifelong effects, especially dangerous in little kids. So $9.7 million Baltimore has received from HUD. So a lot of kids in Baltimore affected by lead. And why? How did this happen? How did this lead epidemic even come to be in Baltimore? A lot of people responsible. The government, highly responsible. And that's where the money is gone. That's who HUD gave $9.7 million. As much as you may not think, it's not that much money. $9.7 million for this. It's not that much money. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned whether or not there's going to be any accountability for this money, whether it's even going to be spent the way that it has been designated to go Who's going to hold these people accountable? The government. Who's going to hold our government accountable? The government's been getting a lot of money for a lot of things, and it just kind of dries up, disappears, misappropriated, not used for what it was designated to be used for, right? How are we going to know? These are questions that I have. That's why when he said that HUD gave Baltimore $9.7 million for this lead project, I was concerned. So speech delays, lack of impulse control, aggressive tendencies, ADHD, and other learning disabilities, all associated with exposure to lead. Now, it's impossible to draw relationships between lead paint and an individual's behavior. What happens when the population is exposed to lead is pretty clear, though, and it is not pretty. So what will Baltimore do with all this money? How will the citizens of this city hold them accountable? These are questions that I'm asking, but I don't have answers for them. We need to hold them accountable. There's a relationship that we have, Baltimore has, with lead is a long, toxic relationship. Let's talk about this a little bit. Back in the day, the city of Baltimore was at the forefront of enacting legislation to limit exposure for children. In 1949, the Maryland legislature was the first to ban the use of lead paint in children's toys. However, the law was overturned after pressure from the lead industry. You have the same politicians that have been given this $9.7 million. They caved, right? Now, the lead industry, do they have the same kind of power that they used to have? No. But Baltimore was also the first city to offer free blood lead level testing under the watch of a very enterprising health commissioner. And this commissioner also spent decades showing the damage it did to the city's children. So we were on the right path. And then the infamous Johns Hopkins University, the epicenter of knowledge on the effects of lead poisoning back in the 50s, right? Back in the 50s. But then you fast forward 1993, this same university, John Hopkins Kennedy Krieger Institute, approved a notorious study that knowingly exposed children to paint and dust in an effort to find cheaper abatement techniques. Now, this whole debacle, this whole thing ended in a 2001 class action lawsuit. Just like the Tuskegee syphilis study, many poor African Americans were exploited. They intentionally exposed children to lead in poor communities, low-income communities, because they were trying to find ways to cheaply do abatement. So they tested different types of techniques and then wanted to measure how these kids' levels were over time. So politicians are trying to spin this thing in positive ways for the city. Present day, the $9.7 million. So let's break down this money. Of the funds, 9.1 was awarded through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, lead-based paint hazard control, and the lead hazard reduction demonstration grant programs to eliminate hazards in low-income private housing where children younger than 6 live. The remaining $600,000 was awarded through HUD's Healthy Homes Grant Program. So I'm very skeptical, considering the history. Funding for lead abatement has been subject to the same political and economic push and pull as many social programs. They grant money for different things, but it doesn't go to that, right? It doesn't go to that. Back in 1990, the Department of Health and Human Services planned to spend $33 billion to clean up homes around this country. But only a fraction of that has been spent. Back in 2013, amid cutbacks, Congress slashed funding for lead abatement from $23 million to $2 million before restoring it to $15 million in 2014. They're not taking this serious. They're not taking this serious at all. Now, the mayor of Baltimore and others are saying a lot of politically correct words when he talk about lead. But Baltimore needs more actions, not just symbolic rhetoric. So we're going to keep our eyes on this story here at Radio on Fire. I encourage people to follow this. Let's see what happens with this $9.7 million that's supposed to go towards trying to eliminate lead-based paint. I mean, there's a serious problem here in Baltimore as it relates to lead. And I just don't want to see this money go in the pockets of some of our many politicians. Speaking of politicians, should Maryland ban vaping? Vaping has been linked to 20 lung illnesses in Maryland since last week. Health officials do not know if Maryland plans to follow 4 other states in banning e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes. Governor Larry Hogan is aware of the health risks and investigations related to vaping. And he's receiving his briefings. He's still up in the air as to what's going to be done about that. They're not saying whether they're going to ban devices, what's going to happen. But the administration will review any legislation on the issue during the General Assembly, which begins in January. 12 deaths have been reported. So if you look at the CDC, they've counted 805 confirmed and probable cases of lung illness tied to vaping. Now, cases have helped trigger this swift backlash against e-cigarettes, vaping. The Trump administration has proposed a ban. State-level restrictions in Michigan and New York have been the result of this, and an end to sales in Walmart stores nationwide. I think vaping is on its last leg. Vaping is definitely on its last leg. Of course, we're going to talk about the whistleblower and Donald Trump and that whole thing, the impeachment inquiry, the back and forth that is happening. Of course, Radio on Fire Plus, with your help, Radio on Fire delivers independent news, stories, and programming geared to a new urban America. When you subscribe to Radio on Fire Premium, you are helping support a rising voice in urban America. It's because of you and your support that we can provide the web's fastest growing urban commentary. Head to radioonfire.com/join. Become a premium subscriber. You get exclusive contents, behind the scenes footage, and so much more. radioonfire.com/join. So the whistleblower at the center of the Congress impeachment inquiry alleged that Donald Trump abused the power of his office and solicited interference from a foreign country. This is against the law. Of course, Republicans and the sheeple that support Donald Trump are saying that there's nothing wrong with that, no problem. The White House then tried to lock down the information to cover it up. That's what this whistleblower is saying. And In a 9-page document released earlier today, it provides new details about this summertime phone call in which Trump encouraged the president of Ukraine to help investigate his political rival, former Vice President Joe Biden. Also in this document, it alleged that a concerted White House effort to suppress the transcripts of the call and describes a shadow campaign of diplomacy by the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, that unnerved some senior Trump administration officials. Trump just thinks he can do whatever he wants to do. And as the president, you are not above the law, Donald Trump. Now, in the days following the phone call, which coincidentally took place right after the whole, Mueller stuff, where Mueller's presentation back in July was less than glamorous, I'll say that. It's not good. This does not look good either way. No matter how you slice it or dice it, it's not good. Whether he's thrown out of office, which I don't think will happen, the fact that the country is even going through this is not good, right? Now, the previously secret document details a clear narrative. You listen to it, someone reads it to you. We read some of it on the Father and Son News show. It will likely accelerate impeachment. It will likely accelerate impeachment. It definitely will put more pressure on Trump to rebut the core contentions and his fellow Republicans to defend him or not. Many of them will defend him. Now, it also provides a roadmap for Democrats to seek collaborating witnesses and evidence, which will complicate the president's efforts to characterize the findings of a lone partisan person out to undermine him. That's what he was trying to do. But it's very smart of this whistleblower who is including other people. There are many others involved. And the whistleblower did not hear firsthand direct, but he can point, or she, I think it's a he, can point to people who did. Trump is in a lot of trouble as it relates to this. Will this get him out of office alone? No, it's probably going to have to happen at the ballot box. But I think that this will affect how people look at Trump. But it's also going to affect Joe Biden. It is. It's going to affect Joe Biden. We have to really see what's going to happen, but I can't call it from day to day. Just exciting times that we live in. The news, you never know what's going to happen from one day to the next. Of course, you're listening to the Diamond K Show here at Radio on Fire. If you are tired of mainstream media misrepresenting the truth, I need you to become a premium subscriber to Radio on Fire. We have news, information, entertainment, sports, all kinds of shows geared to urban America 7 days a week, exclusive content, and the content that we provide normally. Over 20 shows. RadioOnFire.com/join is where you go. Of course, on social media, I am at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Again, thank you for joining me. New episodes of the show drop 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, RadioOnFire.com. Hit the share button, hit the like button, and all that stuff. DJDiamondK@gmail.com for any booking information. I'll see you guys tomorrow. This president, is he going to make it?